Welcome to Inclusive Plug, a RECONOMY videocast that explores how inclusive and green economies are built, not from the top down, but from the ground up. And this episode, we are diving into a fundamental yet often overlooked truth in development. Communities are not case studies. They are not passive recipients of our projects or subjects of our storytelling. They are active agents with knowledge, experience, and aspirations. And yet, too often in development, practitioners have a tendency to design solutions for communities instead of with them. So joining me in this episode are Kocillari, project manager at Helvetas through RECONOMY, and Klavora, co-founder of Visit GoodPlace. Welcome to both of you. So let's begin with a big picture reflection. Annie, to start with you from your work, how would you describe the shift we need to make in how we engage with communities?
Thanks, Sabin, for inviting me. I would like to start by saying that the shift is fundamental. So for us, it's mostly about moving from an extractive mindset where we often treat communities as sources of data or passive recipients of a certain aid provided to them, to a participatory one that truly respects them. In our work at RECONOMY, this is not actually just like a nice to have. It's actually the entire point. We try to consider ourselves as not let's say people or teams who deliver solutions, but we rather act as facilitators. So I would emphasize that the old way is actually designing for them. The new and necessary way is recognizing that they are the ones who have to and want to, in one way or another, drive their own economic future. Our goal as a development aid is to understand actually the systemic barriers that hold people back, especially the target group that we work with, which is women, youth, and the most disadvantaged, and then work with them as stakeholders or market actors to remove those barriers. It's actually a shift from what can we give you, which would be the classic way, to what part of the system is actually broken and how can we support you in trying to fix it.
Thank you, Annie. And from the on-the-ground perspective, Jan, what does it look like when communities are genuinely engaged versus when they're simply consulted? What changes?
I think that luckily what my job is basically creating the cycling and the hiking routes, not just in Slovenia where we are based, but everywhere where we are invited. So already from this perspective, because we are let's say building or creating those cycling hiking routes, we are always not locals but like a tourist on these destinations. So we don't have the local knowledge. So one way or the other, if you want to create a great cycling or hiking route, we have to invite locals to co-design the route. And so basically our job is inherited connected with that we are creating products with locals and not just for locals.
Thank you, Jan. And so often solutions come from boardrooms rather than from people's lived realities. Annie, how do we approach co-creation with communities, particularly those who are often excluded?
Yeah, Sabin, look, frankly speaking, that's the central challenge, isn't it? So I would say that
exactly.
from our perspective at RECONOMY, which is of course built on systems thinking, what does this mean? This means that, like in simpler terms, that we start by assuming that we don't have the answers. So let's say our first and the most initial job in this case is to listen and to analyze the lived reality of the entire system or the systems that we would like to dig a little bit deeper into.
Yeah.
When we actually approach the co-creation, we just don't ask, let's say, simply, what do you need? We ask what is actually stopping you. So we go one step ahead of that. And through this participatory design, we bring those excluded groups to the table with the other private and public actors in that system. I mean, it could be, I don't know, other private sector companies that offer a certain solution. It could be banks, it could be local governments, etc. But for example, let's say instead of us designing a certain product, like in collaboration with GoodPlace, for example, we might bring certain groups, let's say women entrepreneurs and local banks or like local financial institutions into the same room to co-design, let's say, a financial product that actually works for them. The sustainable solution, I believe, comes from their interaction and their buy-in, and not necessarily from our side, or let's say a specific case study or a specific document that we would produce as development aid.
Thanks, Annie. And Jan, could you walk us through an example where your work shifted from doing for to doing with?
Yeah, that's basically the product that we created with you, with the RECONOMY, with Helvetas. It's Transdinarica long-distance cycling route that connects the entire Balkans, so all 8 countries, starting with Slovenia, then Croatia, then going down to Bosnia, Montenegro, Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, and Serbia. So the way we are creating the product is always, it's divided like into 7 modules, we'd like to say. And the first model is always that we create a dream. And whenever we create a product, we'd like to share this dream with the locals, because we would like that locals become our ambassadors. And at the end, I will present how it works in practice. But before we go on the field, we always do the interviews with the local guides. If this is the cycling, with local cycling experts. And whenever we are on the field, we always have local guide with us, because as I mentioned from the beginning, we are hosted there, we are tourists there. We don't know the region in details and the routes in details, so we need the local knowledge. So whatever we prepare, when we already come to the terrain, we already have lots of local knowledge in us. But when we are in the field, local guide is with us, and they're interpreting what the local need is to us, so that we know what to incorporate at the end. So once we created the Transdinarica, we always said that it's not for us, it's for the local communities. And everyone should say it's not theirs or someone else. It's from the locals now, the route, once it was published. And the best example is, for instance, now when we were tracing the route, we traced over 2,000 businesses into our application. But of course, we didn't trace all of them, because some of them are popping up, there are new ones, or some of them were a little bit off the beaten track. But what happened now is that the businesses along the route, they saw the opportunity. And now they are contacting us and asking, guys, can we be part of the route? And not just that, now they're also asking, hey, do you have any leaflets? Because next month, I'm going to the fair in Rimini or in Munich, and I would like to basically promote Transdinarica. And this is the best case study when we created the route, not for locals, but with locals, and now for them, and it's theirs, not just ours. So they are becoming our ambassadors. They're our partners on the field, actually, at the end.
Thank you, Jan. To close, a quick reflection from each of you. Jan, what's one thing you've learned from communities you work with?
That we don't know much. We are just tourists in their destinations, and they should be the ones who are telling us what to do, not the opposite way.
And Ine, what's one mindset shift you wish every development practitioner would make?
Well, Sabin, my wish would actually be that we all shift from what are we going to do to whose system or which system are we trying to strengthen. So from my perspective, I would like to see it as a shift in humility, that us as development practitioners should move from being the drivers of change to actually the facilitators, or like the temporary facilitators, I would like to say. Success is not actually what we accomplish as a development practitioner. is what a certain community and the market can sustain after we're gone. So that actually, to make this work, it requires us to put our specific target groups and their ownership first, always, of course, being in line with what Jan already said.
Thank you very much to both of you for this conversation. To the viewers out there, if you're listening and working in development, ask yourselves, are we designing for communities or with the communities? Are we centering on our interventions or their lived experiences? At Helvetas, we believe meaningful, lasting impact starts when we engage with partnership.